captains went out to meet the Minnesota captains at midfield. That's Reggie Brown, the linebacker for the Lions, who was injured last year in the game against the New York Jets. And he was greeted with some ovation. Made a miraculous comeback. And is still in rehab, but made marvelous strides toward recovering from that serious injury he received here last year.
Just the fact that he could jog out there like he did, Pat, is very, very close to a miracle.
It really is. He's playing, they say, some pickup basketball games even. So he's working on his degree at Texas A&M, and he's certainly to be admired. David Palmer back deep with Mo Williams, and Hansen will kick it off for Detroit as the Vikings won the toss. At the Dome, they're underway. Hansen's kick sails deep to Palmer, and he'll down it in the end zone. You make a lot of friends on the coverage teams when they don't bring it out. Pat Summerall with John Madden at the Silverdome. Here's the offense for Minnesota. The remarkable and amazing Randall Cunningham as the quarterback. What a comeback and what a year he's having. Stussy, McDaniel, Christie, Dixon, and Stringer in front of him. A solid offensive line. Robert Smith and Charles Evans, the back, Jake Reed, Chris Carter, and Andrew Glover. The three receivers, they'll be joined frequently and early by Randy Moss. Three wide receivers they start with, and Cunningham on first down gets it to Jake Reed. They expect Jake Reed to have a big day today. Here's the Detroit defense. The front four, Waldrop, Ellis, Owens, and Porcher. The linebackers, Alan Aldridge, Stephen Boyd in the middle, and Rob Fredrickson. Terry Fair has taken over one cornerback spot with Bryant Westbrook, Carrier, and Rice. The two safeties, it's 2nd and 3. 7-yard pickup on the completion to Jake Reed. Three wide receivers again. Glover comes in motion. Robert Smith tripped up in a fine play by Mark Carrier.
You know, and that's an important thing for the Minnesota Vikings. And talking to Denny Green, he said that they would like to use three wide receivers more and more. He said he plans to use it about 60% of the time. But he says the better they can run from it, the more they can use it. So the run from the three wide receiver formation is very important to the Vikings.
3rd and 3, no gain. Leroy Horde is in the Minnesota backfield. The Lions showing blitz. They get it outside to Palmer, and Palmer will get a Minnesota first down.
You know, one of the things that the Lions were doing, they were packed in there for the run, and they weren't going to let the Vikings run for that first down. And then when you bring David Palmer into the game, he's going to get his hands on the ball because he's not a blocker. You know, he's a kick returner, he's a pass catcher, and you wonder how they can be that loose on 3rd down against David Palmer.
He can make some things happen, and usually does. Smith is the deep back. Once again, three wide receivers set up for Minnesota, and Cunningham wheels it outside. This time it's to Randy Moss. A short gain. He stopped by Terry Fair.
Yeah, this is one thing about this Minnesota offense and Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator, that they really do mix it up. You know, they mix up the pass and the run. Then they're going to throw to Chris Carter. You know that he's going to get his receptions. Then they got Randy Moss, and he's becoming a big part of this offense. Then they got Jake Reed on the other side. And they even got Andrew Glover who catches some passes. And then Robert Smith has to run the ball.
Two tight ends set up this time for Minnesota. Robert Smith. Smith is cut down at the line of scrimmage. He might have gotten a yard. Stephen Boyd made the stop.
This is the thing that Boyd does very well. You're going to see, here's Smith here. He's in the I formation position. He's real deep. Boyd just comes right down the line and meets him square in the hole.
Brings up 3rd and 5. You know, Minnesota won the toss. The Lions have not won a game this year when they didn't win the toss of the coin. 3rd down. Cunningham retreats, and he is taken down by Rob Fredrickson. Ball is down. Cunningham was down.
And the officials are pointing right to that 30-yard line, but that's one of the things that Larry Peccatello has this defense doing is more blitzing, and more blitzing by Rob Fredrickson. And you see him, he just comes free right up the middle. He was standing there, and it was a little delayed blitz. You know, you let those pass rushers get into the offensive linemen, and the second they hit their shoulder pads, boom, you come right off those blocks.
Terry Fair back deep for Detroit. Kick hangs high. Fair signals fair catch and makes it at his own 23-yard line. So a pretty impressive couple of downs by the Detroit defense. Minnesota did get one first down, but Detroit takes over.
It's an idea.
One first down. Wrestling match with Herman Moore with Corey Fuller. Here's the Detroit offense led by Charlie Batch. Got off to a shaky start in his first game against Minnesota, but has improved steadily since then. Roberts, Compton, Pine, Simple. Barry Sanders gets the carry. Minnesota, which did a good job stopping him in the first game up in Minneapolis, does it again. Let's look at that Minnesota defense. Alexander Randall, Jerry Ball, and Stalin Colomé. Wayne Rudd, Ed McDaniel in the middle, Dixon Edwards, the other strong side linebacker. Hitchcock and Fuller, the corners, Orlando Thomas and Griffith, the safety.
John Randall moves around. He's playing defensive end, the right end on this pass rush situation.
Here's Batch. High and over the head of Herman Moore, and it's got to be high to be over his head.
Yep, and John Randall made two big plays in a row there on that second down Barry Sanders run. The first thing you have to do to get Barry Sanders some running room is not allow penetration. John Randall on second down got penetration. John Randall on third down got a pass rush on Charlie Batch and made him throw it a little early.
John Jett to punt it to David Palmer. Jett was injured. Ribs were bothering him, but now he says they're okay unless he has to stretch, so we hope for a good snap, and he gets one. And he gets off a good punt. And that's David Palmer. Flag on the play at the 30-yard line, and this has to be one of those illegal blocks in the back.
Yeah, and these are the things we've talked about this each week, where you talk about how important field position is and how much field position you gain or lose by special teams. And then within special teams, there's a heck of a lot of this hidden penalty yardage, like this one right here.
During the return of the kick, holding number 23 on the receiving team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Tony Corrente is the referee. So Minnesota gets their second chance at moving the football. Three wide receivers set up for Minnesota on first down from their own 20. Cunningham back to throw it. Pass by Chris Carter. Caught by Chris Carter, I should say, out of bounds at the 45 of Minnesota, first down.
This is really interesting here, Pat, when we talk about the three wide receivers of the Minnesota Vikings, and on that play there, they were lined up 1, 2, 3. You had a short, a middle, and a deep. That was Chris Carter's 106th consecutive game with a reception, and it's a new team record. And the guy that had the record is that guy right there, Anthony Carter.
AC.
Yep, so AC is here for the game that Chris Carter broke his record.
And Chris gets the game ball. First down, Minnesota. Three wide receivers set up again, and there's three good ones. There's four wide receivers. Cunningham firing deep for Mark.
can't outrun it, can he?
He had some steps. Right now for an NFL update, let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles.
Hey, Pat, here's a sure-handed receiver. Take a look at Steve Young play action. Jerry Rice on a crossing route pulls it in for the touchdown. Now has 184, the most consecutive games with the reception streak now, breaking Art Monk, formerly of the Redskins. Back to Pat and John.
Back at the Silverdome as Minnesota gives the ball to Robert Smith, who breaks the tackle, fumbles the ball, and the Lions have it. Waldrop came up with the ball.
Let's just say, put an extra blocker there, tight end, Greg DeLong in the backfield. See, he gets a lead. He gets a good lead right there. Smith has the ball out there in his left hand. Now, at contact, you have to put the other arm over it. He doesn't get both arms over. You see, he leaves it out there, right there, and then he starts to bobble it. And right there at that point, Mark Carrier comes in and whaps it right out of there.
And Detroit has it.
You guys are in here again?
Left to play in the first quarter. Minnesota nothing, Detroit nothing. Detroit just recovered a fumble. Two tight ends set up. That's Barry Sanders. And Sanders flashes into the secondary. Tackled by Orlando Thomas, and if he doesn't, that could have been 6.
Yeah, watch Robert Griffith is a strong safety, and he is going to come flying up to the outside. He gets so much penetration out here, he takes himself out of the play. And I think the minute Barry Sanders got the ball, he saw Griffith, and Griffith was going to get up there, take away that outside, and there was no way Barry was going to go to the outside, so he just cut it inside.
2nd and 5. Moore in motion. Hand off to Sanders, who breaks one tackle. Gets up close to midfield, still shy of a first down by about 3. Ed McDaniel.
Yep, they did the same thing that time. They got Robert Griffith up, who's their strong safety. They brought him up to the left side. Now that's what they're doing. They're going to bring him up real hard to the outside to make Barry Sanders cut back in. So there's no way that Barry Sanders can get to the outside.
Wayne Rudd had a bad shoulder. Now it looks like something might be bothering him with his leg.
Well, you know, he's playing with a harness on his right arm today because of the injury to his right shoulder.
That fakes to Sanders. Rolls a little bit and fires deep. Incomplete at the 10. Intended for Johnny Morton. Broken up by Orlando Thomas.
And that was the same play that Randall Cunningham had thrown to Randy Moss, where he rolled right and threw back left. That time Charlie Batch rolled right and threw across the field left. Both of these guys, Randall Cunningham and Charlie Batch, both have strong arms and can do that type of thing.
John Jett. High, good kick. Palmer signals fair catch at the 17. So with 8:02 left in the first, it's still nothing.
On your local Oldsmobile dealers.
The Magic Halloween coming up with a squeaky wheel and the tractor.
And the tractor was taking the pumpkins out of the pumpkin patch, and we got 2 of them here in the booth.
Yeah. You mean you and me?
Yeah. No. You and me each have 1 pumpkin,
right,
which equals 2 pumpkins out of the pumpkin patch.
Luther Ellis made the stop. Robert Smith, who fumbled for the first time in his last 535 touches.
Yeah,
they're our pumpkins.
Yeah, one is a Fox Sports pumpkin. Another one, see, if you do it this way, this is a way to do it where you can get the nose of the pumpkin out there by making it instead of the top. You know what I mean?
No. Cunningham throws quickly to Jake Reed, and Reed spins about the 25, shy of a first down.
This is one of the the things that here's Jake Reed. Now, he's away from the side of the two wide receivers, Carter and Moss, and this is one of the things that they think they can get the coverage over here and then come back to this side where Jake Reed is going to have man-to-man coverage. So put Moss and Carter on one side and throw to the other side to Jake Reed.
Evans in front of Smith. Behind Cunningham. Cunningham drops to throw it. And fires upfield. Incomplete. Intended for Chris Carter.
Again, pressured by Rob Fredrickson. We saw him pressure from the middle. This time he pressured from the right side. See, here's Rob Fredrickson. He's going to be over here on this side here, coming from here. You see, he gets the pressure right here. You see, as Randall Cunningham is ready to throw the ball to step up to him, Fredrickson just, boom, just knocks him around.
Ball might have been deflected. Fredrickson.
Terry Fair had very good coverage on that and was close to getting a deflection.
Fair back deep, signal is again for fair catch. And makes it. And the score remains in the first quarter. Minnesota nothing, Detroit nothing. Hand off to Barry Sanders. Sanders gets a couple. Wayne Rudd made the stop. Right now, let's go down to Jennifer Hammond.
All right, thank you very much, Pat. Standing beside me, a very important member of this Detroit Lions team, and today, an honorary defensive captain, Reggie Brown. 10 months and 4 days since you were injured here on this field. What did it feel like to come back today and hear the welcome from the fans?
It was kind of a strange feeling, being back on the field. I haven't, like you said, I haven't been here in 10 months. I got a warm response from the crowd, which I kind of anticipated. Detroit has treated me extremely well ever since my injury and even before my injury. So, I'm just proud to get back out, be with the people of Detroit. It's been a fun and unique opportunity for me.
I'm sure the people around here would like an update. Do you have anything to tell the fans and the viewers and people in football wonder what Reggie Brown's been up to?
I've been spending time in school, trying to finish my degree up in economics. But other than that, trying to, work out a little bit, keeping up with the Lions, trying to do the best I can.
Well, thank you very much, Reggie. I know everybody here in Detroit is pulling for you. Guys, back upstairs to you.
All right, Jennifer. Barry Sanders, as you saw, got the carry on second down for a short gain, and now it's third and about 6. Vikings jump, it appeared. Batch has got a free play, and he hits Johnny Morton. That'll be enough for the first.
And that one was all Charlie Batch, Pat. He got Stalin Colonnade to jump on that one. Then Charlie Batch, by going on a hard count, then he knew he had the free play, and that loosens up a quarterback a little. That knows that he's going to get this free play.
Offside. Number 99 defense. Penalty is declined. First down.
Here it is, but watch the hard count here. That's what gets him. You see when he bobbed his head right there, that got him. And now Charlie Batch saw that, and that gives him a certain freedom, a certain relaxation to just throw that ball in there. And he had Johnny Morton wide open in a hole in his zone.
Batch back again to throw it. Lobs the pass out to Tommy Bardell, and Bardell is near another first down for the Lions.
Now that's a way to deliver a blow. That's a way to finish off a run.
Lose your hat.
Yeah, lose your hat. Darn near lost your head, but he delivered a blow. I mean, at the end, the defensive guy can finish you off, or you can finish him off. Charlie Batch does a good job of holding him. Now watch Tommy Bardell at the end right there. Instead of running out of bounds, he puts his shoulder down and boom, he just rams it right in there.
About a half yard shy of a first down.
Whenever you see a helmet fly off without the head in it, that's very, very good news.
Sanders. First down to the 41, and a flag on the play. The Vikings are going to be called for a late hit, I believe, or Semple. Tony Semple might have gotten a late block.
The Vikings are talking to Tony Semple about that in their huddle. Barry Sanders made a heck of a move to get that first down. He had to make one more inside cut to get beyond that marker for the first down, and he did it.
It's against Detroit.
That's going to see, we're seeing more and more of that, of those offensive linemen going downfield.
Conclusion of the play. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 62 offense. 15-yard penalty, repeat, second down.
See, now here's what they're doing. Barry Sanders is down. The play is over. Now watch number 62, Tony Semple there. He's just coming and picking Robert Griffith off the top of the pile. And, you know, that's the thing that Kevin Gogan of the 49ers does, Steve Wisniewski of the Raiders. You know, those type of guys get downfield and try and pick defensive backs off the pile.
Semple starting in place of Jeff Hardings, who would normally be at that guard spot.
Tony Semple's a tough guy. I mean, he's a pretty good player. He's filled in well for the Lions.
2nd and 13. Sanders. Midfield. 40. Sanders still on his feet. To the 20. Orlando Thomas.
Well, Barry Sanders got it back for him, and I'll tell you, Tony Semple helped him too, because you have to block John Randall, and watch Tony Semple. Yeah, he's going to block. He's going to get a block on Randall. Of course, it's all going to be Barry Sanders out there, but Semple does get him started. You see him get him right here. Then they get the double team. They drive it out. There's nothing in there for Barry Sanders. He makes a fake, goes to the outside, just outruns everyone, always keeps his feet going.
37-yard gain for Sanders.
And I'll tell you, anytime you get a big run by a back, there's going to be a wide receiver block. That time it was Johnny Morton.
Sanders is out. Rivers is in. Rivers to about the 18.
We talked earlier how the Detroit Lions meet Barry Sanders, and you look at what happened in the last game. Here was a chart. You could see, you know, he had a 15-yard run in the first half, a 19-yard run. But here's halftime. And you look at the second half is when either the Viking defense did a very good job in the second half, or Barry Sanders didn't have the same type of running in the second half. But he had a lot more spikes in the first half than he did the second half.
Batch. Incomplete. Almost intercepted. Cole was the intended receiver.
Watch the number of guys that have a shot at Barry Sanders. I mean, they think that they have good angles on him, but he just outrun 4 guys right there. I mean, there were 4 guys waiting for him, and he went right by him.
Yep.
Then as he gets downfield, he'll get a couple more. You can be, I mean, you can scout, you can be coached, you know everything, you can be in good position. With Barry Sanders, sometimes that doesn't mean a doggone thing.
You can't be coached for that. Here's Batch back to throw on 3rd. Pass was almost picked off by intended for Herman Moore. One of the Vikings almost took it away from him. There's a flag on the play.
One thing, Charlie Batch hasn't had a turnover in 3 games. That's the second penalty on this drive. Remember, Tony Semple had one earlier, and this is going to be a tripping penalty against the Detroit Lions. Last time, the first play after the penalty just handled to Barry Sanders, and he got it back for him.
It would be 4th down. If they take the penalty, it'll be 3rd down, but it'll take them out of field goal range.
Tripping, number 62 offense. 10-yard penalty, repeat, 3rd down.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not out of range.
Yeah, this is still pretty good. I think I'd probably just take 4th down and let him kick a field goal here.
I might too.
You're going to see the tripping right there. Again, it's Tony Semple, the same guy. He went down, and that was a leg whip. But I think that the Detroit Lions, even with that penalty, are still in field goal range.
I believe you're right. 3rd and 18. Batch back to throw it. Has time. Incomplete, intended for Johnny Morton. Good coverage by the Vikings, Jimmy Hitchcock.
You know, in those last 2 passes, Pat, Charlie Batch is getting very, very close to forcing the ball.
Yep. And that means very close to an interception on both plays.
One of the things that Bobby Ross likes about Charlie Batch is he hasn't thrown interceptions. He hasn't had one in the last 3 games.
Jet will hold. This will be 48 yards out. 47. And it's good from Hansen.
So when the Vikings turned that down. All they did was give the Lions one more play, and it was an incompletion, and Hansen still got it from there.
And he had plenty of room on the end of that. That would have been good from 60. Next week, it's a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader. First two NFC Central rivals clash as the Vikings battle the Buccaneers. Then two legends battle as Steve Young leads the 49ers against Brett Favre and the Packers in a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. Coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Fox. Check your local listing. You're headed up to Green Bay?
Yep, well, I'll go to Chicago first. I'm getting a new bus this weekend, too, so that's not a bad place to break it in. Next week with this game right here, the 49ers and the Packers in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Lambeau Field, and that's pretty doggone good. That's going to be a pretty good game.
Does the new bus have tailgate facilities?
Yeah, it has all kinds of facilities. I even have a case of brats I'm going to bring up there. I'm going to cook a case of brats.
I think if you didn't take it with you, you could find some in Green Bay.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing you think of. Green Bay, Packers, Lambeau Field, Vince Lombardi.
Tradition.
Brett Favre.
Great team.
And brats. And that'll be the day after Halloween, too. Halloween's next Saturday, right?
Right.
So that'll be the post-Halloween.
Hansen's kickoff again chases Palmer into the end zone, but this time he's going to bring it out. And he brings it out past the 20 to about the 23. A long run to get it back that far.
Yeah, we were talking about Randall Cunningham and the job that he's doing. He really hasn't gotten into a flow yet. There's Jim Zorn. He's the new quarterback coach of Detroit Lions. He was brought here to help Scott Mitchell. Remember Jim Zorn? He was a left-handed quarterback at Seattle, a lot like Scott Mitchell, except he could really run. And lo and behold, and little did he know that he's not going to be coaching Scott Mitchell now. Scott Mitchell's been benched, but he's coaching a rookie Charlie Batch.
And Jim Zorn would still like to be playing.
After Steve DeBerg got his opportunity, Zorn said he ought to do it.
Cunningham. Jake Reed, the intended receiver. There's a flag on the play.
Yeah, we were saying that Charlie Batch is maybe forcing some and coming close to interceptions. Randall Cunningham is also coming close to some interceptions.
Randall's been under pressure from that Detroit defense blitzing. Maybe he's conscious of that.
Yeah, that was one thing that they talked about, and Larry Peccatello, the defensive coordinator, says that they wanted to do with Randall Cunningham is keep him off balance and put some pressure on him.
Against Detroit, the Lions leading 3-0. 47-yard field goal by Hansen.
Number 32 defense. First down.
Called against Brian Westbrook. Bobby Ross is not too happy about the call.
Westbrook is a left corner, is out there and is trying to play. He's right up here, and he's trying to play physical in this game against these big receivers, and they have to do that.
Smith. That's John Randall.
John Randall's either coaching or getting some coaching. You'd think that he probably started out. Well, his defensive line coach is Andre Patterson, and this is an amazing record here. 134 games. John Randall, as a defensive tackle in the pit all the time, has never missed a game.
2nd and 3. Smith again. Yesterday, we spoke to Luther Ellis about the importance of today's game.
Right now, this game is a Super Bowl for us because right now we're 2-4. We feel like we're a better team than that, but I mean, until you start beating teams like Green Bay and Minnesota, proving to the world that you are a better team, better than what your record shows, nobody's going to believe it. So this is a Super Bowl for us. This is a must-win for us.
I sort of believe it, don't you, that they are a better team than 2 and 4?
Yeah, they are a better team than 2 and 4, but they got off to that slow start with Scott Mitchell, and in those games that they lost, I mean, they were in them. They had them up to the last minutes. Then they made a quarterback change, went to a rookie. Those are tough things that the Detroit Lions had to do.
Took a lot of courage by Bobby Ross to make that quarterback change.
I think it's something that didn't necessarily start this year. I think it started a year ago.
I agree with you.
In fact, I think it started in Tampa Bay in that playoff game against the Buccaneers.
3 wide receivers, and Leroy Horde is the back. Cunningham, flag again comes flying from deep in the secondary. Chris Carter pointing.
And again, they got that same type of thing. They got Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Jake Reed. With the motion, they got all 3 of them on the same side. Now that is a real overload.
Going to be against the Lions.
That's the second penalty against the Lions secondary in this drive.
Illegal contact, number 57 defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Middle linebacker Stephen Boyd.
And now that had nothing to do. Here's a formation. You're going to see that they're going to get all 3 wide receivers here. Boyd is in the middle. And you're just going to see he's going to get the contact right in there against Chris Carter. The only thing is you can only hit him within the first 5 yards. After they go 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, you can't hit him. Stephen Boyd hit Chris Carter about 20 yards downfield.
Just barely. Cunningham calls timeout and heads for the sideline. Minnesota timeout.
Yeah, that's a tough thing when you have 3 receivers on that side. We talked about it. You have Jake Reed, you have Chris Carter, you have Randy Moss. They're running right through your secondary, and it's hard for a middle linebacker like a Stephen Boyd not to get a bump on him. I mean, here's Chris Carter running right down the middle. What are you going to do? Well, by rule, you just got to let him run right by you and hope you can get some position, but you can't touch him.
That's Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator, with his back to you, talking to quarterback Randall Cunningham. 5 out of 7.
Yeah, and Randall Cunningham credits Brian Billick with a lot of his success. He said that he was talking about the receivers he has, the running back, the offensive line. He says, I have all those things, maybe as good or better than I've ever had. He said, but I'll tell you one thing that I definitely know is better. He said, Brian Billick is the best offensive coordinator I've ever had.
Randall seems like, when you talk with him, an entirely different individual than the one we talked to in those years, some of them great years in Philadelphia.
Well, he uses 2 P words, patience and peace. And you can kind of see it in his action.
Sure can. Robert Smith is dragged backwards after he picked up a couple of yards. Luther Ellis.
That was the guy Denny Green was worried about. He said there's 2 guys on the front 4 of the Detroit Lions that always give the Vikings trouble, and that's Robert Forshade and Luther Ellis.
Luther Ellis.
Big Luther, he's getting excited down there, isn't he? He's telling his fans, come on, get in it. And they do a pretty good job of not letting the quarterback get his cadence out.
Luther motioning to somebody on his side, and there's Cunningham, and he gets the ball to Chris Carter. That's one of their favorite patterns.
Well, you know what they do is they drive him deep, and Jake Reed takes a deep guy. Now, when Jake Reed goes deep, now when he goes deep, he can take this, then you can get into this area. You see Jake Reed here taking a guy deep. Now, that's what opens that up. You see, if Jake Reed doesn't go deep, or if he doesn't get out there, then that doesn't allow Randall Cunningham to use that nice touch that he has right there to get the ball to Chris Carter.
David Palmer and Charles Evans, I beg your pardon. Here's Palmer. Looked like he was getting set to throw an option pass, and now there's another flag coming out.
That was going to be an option pass. That was a run pass. He was looking to throw it. In fact, he was trying to throw it to Chris Carter downfield in the right side.
No penalty marker down. That's the end of the first quarter with the score: the Lions 3, the Vikings nothing. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. More than 80,000 people on hand. Minnesota has the ball
outside, but because Cunningham was going to the left, that was his backside. But Scroggins is going to come from this side. Cunningham starts out, but he's looking that way to his left, and Scroggins just comes right around the corner here. But see, now when he turns to his left, that becomes his backside. And he just turned a little. Watch Randall Cunningham. That here, he doesn't see him at all. The first thing that he knows that Scroggins is there is when he feels him on his shoulder.
And then he feels the artificial turf.
Listen to the noise on this one. Third down.
Three wide receivers set up as Cunningham's going to throw a screen pass. He gets it to David Palmer. And Palmer stays on his feet and picks up a first.
Oh, what a play!
Right down for an NFL update. Let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles.
Had another quarterback who felt the artificial turf, Steve DeBerg, blitzed, hit by Victor Green, fumbles, recovered by defensive back Jerome Henderson, 53 yards later to pay dirt, 14-0 Jets over Atlanta. Back to Pat Summerall and John Madden.
Jets a hard team to predict.
How about that play to David Palmer, though? That screen pass on third and real long.
Smith is cut down at the 20.
He was playing a heck of a game for Detroit, is Stephen Boyd. Yeah, he's been making plays up and down the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's really keyed in on that run. And one of the things that they talked about that they had to do was they had to stop the run of the Vikings. Then if they could stop that run, then they could really put a lot of pressure on Randall Cunningham. But they better watch out for David Palmer on those third down plays, too.
Second and 11. Cunningham will have to put it up. And he has to throw it into the ground. As the pressure again by Porcher.
Yeah.
And Scroggins.
That was darn near throwing it away because he comes out to that side and Porcher is right there. I mean, Porcher is going to come up. Now, when Randall Cunningham comes out, watch Porcher. He doesn't go for the fake. That's the thing you do. You look in there at the run. Then when you see the quarterback has the ball, instead of going for the quarterback, you get straight up the field and you build a wall. And that's exactly what Robert Porcher did. That's called containment.
Third and 11, Leroy Horde behind Cunningham. Back to throw. Quickly to Jake Reed, and Reed makes a first down at the Detroit 5.
That's the thing that we're talking about, isolating Jake Reed. What they did, again, they put Chris Carter, Randy Moss over on the other side. And they put, you see, here's Carter and Moss over on this side. Jake Reed isolated here on Brian Westbrook. You see, so they get all the coverage going to the other side. Randall Cunningham gives a little look to that side, then comes right back to the right to Jake Reed. And Brian Westbrook was too far off.
First and goal at the 5. Horde is deep. Horde had the ball, but there was a flag on the play.
Mark Carrier came on a blitz that time. It looked from here like he timed it perfectly.
Snap, false start. Number 73, offense.
Must have.
5-yard penalty remains. First down.
Because Carrier was going to blitz right inside of Todd Stussy. Now watch, Stussy is the left tackle. Carrier is going to come right inside, right in that hole, and this is the hole that they're running to. So Stussy, I don't know if he saw that movement of Carrier or not, but he got off just a little early.
Stussy had an unusually wide split. Maybe he thought he couldn't get back in time. Cunningham lofts it to Jake Reed, who comes down with it. Touchdown, Minnesota.
Yeah, that's their offensive plan. Jake Reed is going to be a big part of it today. Again, they think they're going to concentrate on the other side, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, and then they just come over. The guy that they're not going to concentrate on is Jake Reed. Again, this is the advantage of having big receivers. You know, big receivers against smaller defensive backs, they can just out-jump them, and even a little bump will knock them off.
The extra point is good by Anderson. Reed is about, what, 6 inches taller than Terry Fair? At least. And it's 7-3. Pumpkins and the apples are getting ripe.
Well, that's one of the things you do on Thanksgiving is bob for apples. You ever bob for apples?
No.
You never did?
No. This is Terry Fair. And Fair weaves his way to about the 25.
Terry Fair was just the guy that this guy here, Jake Reed, beat. You know, let's look at that Jake Reed's catch on the clicker here, and you'll see that, you know, that the guy is 215 pounds. Now watch how he has that left hand out there at Terry Fair. See right there? See the left hand? He puts it on his shoulder, and as he goes up, he just gives a little push off, and then he can get both hands there, and that was enough to get the separation from Terry Fair.
Plus that height advantage.
And plus he has like a 30-pound weight advantage.
12 players in the offensive huddle. 5-yard penalty remains.
And 12 players in the huddle.
Yeah, that's the thing is, and when you make substitutions, the guy that is going out has to get right out. He can't loiter. They call it loiter or linger around the huddle. So if you linger around the huddle after you're substituted for, then they count that as illegal.
Linger or loiter?
I think it's, I don't think loiter, I think it's my word.
What's the difference? Batch just does get rid of it.
I think both of these teams have figured out that bootleg because the Lions are waiting for Cunningham and Stalin Colonnay was waiting for Batch on that play. Batch is going to come out here. Now Colonnay, again, we talked about containment. You start up, you see the quarterback coming to you. You don't go at him, you go straight up to contain him.
Angles.
Now watch what Colonnay does. You see right here the fake. Now he goes right up to get outside of him. Charlie Batch didn't have a chance on that one, I think.
2nd and 15.
Saw that coming, went to a slide.
Sanders. Barry slips to the outside, slips a couple of tackles, stays on his feet to the 28.
Good block by Johnny Morton. You know, we talked about how Robert Griffith, the strong safety of the Vikings, is getting up for the run. Now, if he gets up, he's either going to be the free man or you have to get him blocked. Now, he's going to come up outside the picture. He's going to be up outside here. Now, watch Johnny Morton right there. You see Johnny Morton comes in and makes that tackle. See, Griffith is going to come up right there. See 24 coming up. He's the 8th man. Now, again, if you don't get a wide receiver on him, he's the free tackler. If you do get a wide receiver on him, you can make yardage.
3 wide receivers set up as the Vikings show blitz, and they do it. And Sanders doesn't quite get enough yards for the first down. And right now, let's go down to Jennifer Hanman.
All right, standing beside me, William Sanders, the father of number 20, Barry Sanders. How long in your mind, we all know Jim Brown is your favorite running back. How long in your mind until your son can pass him?
Repeat that again. I didn't understand
How long
it.
before your son surpasses Jim Brown as the greatest running back in your mind?
I don't think he'll ever surpass Jim Brown in my mind as the greatest running back.
As much as he runs, as well as he runs, all the things he does?
He's a wonderful runner, but he'll never outdo Jim Brown. Not in my mind.
How was it for you to stand here on the sideline and watch him? What are your reactions?
Oh, I really feel good. It's nice watching him run. He's a great running back, but he's not as great as Jim Brown.
I know all the fans in Detroit want Barry to get the ball more. What do you think of that?
I don't want to see him get the ball anymore. He gets it too much now. Because they're in the wrong kind of defenses. If they change the defense, yes, but not the defense they be stacking against him.
And that is the word from William Sanders down here on the field, fellas.
Well, you know what he was talking about, Pat? He was talking about the wrong defenses, and that's what we were talking about. Robert Griffith, when he gets up there in the 8th man, and you have to run against 8 men, and that's what Barry Sanders is always going to have to do and always has done.
Sounds like his dad wants to be a coach. Maybe should be. Here's Batch. Whips it up the middle, incomplete.
They're going to get Robert Griffith there. They're going to say that he hit Charlie Batch after Batch threw the ball. We got Griffith today is playing more like a defensive lineman and a linebacker than he is a defensive back. That time he was up there for the run, so he just took off and went after Charlie Batch.
Going back to Sanders' last carry.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. An elbow was thrown. Number 24 defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
Sanders obviously did get the first down on the previous carry.
You see, we're going to see Robert Griffith here. Now he's going to come up. You see as he comes up there to make 8 men in the front against Barry Sanders. Now he sees Charlie Batch run, so now he's going to become a pass rusher, and he just gave him that elbow right in the face, and that's what they call. He tried to pull it back, didn't he? He tried to. You can't hit with the helmet, then you can't hit with the elbow, so he was trying to find something he could hit with.
Lions at midfield give the ball to Barry Sanders, and Sanders squirms out of the trap behind the line of scrimmage and gets about 4 yards. Dwayne Rudd brought him down.
Watch Jerry Ball here. Now, Jerry Ball's job is he's going to stop the inside run. He's a plugger. Now, if you start down the line, then he got to start down the line and chase him. You see what Jim Pine did?
Yes, I did.
Jim Pine, the center, he just grabbed a big old handful of jersey. And when you grab a big old handful of jersey on Jerry Ball, you are getting a big old handful.
You are. Flag on the play. Jerry Ball's jersey's so tight, it's tough to get a handful.
Yeah, and to get a handful, and then that's not going to be a dry handful either. You know that. That's one thing. You know, players are doing, linemen are wearing smaller shoulder pads and tighter jerseys. Have you known that?
Yes.
I mean, what they used to do is they used to, tape them to their thing, and they used to put, spray that silicone stuff on so they'd be slippery. Now they're just getting so
unrelated
tight,
to the action by the defense.
grab.
That you just can't grab.
Number 89 offense. 5-yard penalty remains. Second down.
Walter Rasby.
Wait, Bobby Ross is going crazy down there in the sideline. He is really after that official. In fact, one of those finger pointing jobs he gave came very close to touching the official. He's a fiery guy, isn't he? I mean, he is a heck of a coach, and he's a competitor, and he is in on every play.
Wonder what he says, because he doesn't swear. Sanders looking for somewhere else to go, and he's found somewhere else to go.
Oh, great block by Charlie Batch.
Yeah, it was. Fuller made the stop, but Sanders on his own, except for the block for Batch.
And I think that's the thing that his teammates like about Charlie Batch. You know that Barry Sanders is going to do these type of things. He's going to come over here and stop and watch Charlie Batch when he comes back. Everyone knows with Barry, everyone has to stay alive. Right there, Robert Griffith, boom, he just takes him right down. That's a heck of a block for anyone. And you can say it's a heck of a block for a quarterback, but that's a good block for a running back. Look at him, he just cuts him right down. Barry Sanders runs right off Charlie Batch's block. You know you don't practice that one.
3rd and 1. Sanders is out. Bardell is deep. Bardell gets the carry, and he might have gotten one, but that's all. If he got that, he was behind Schlesinger.
You know, one thing about the Detroit Lions with Barry Sanders, they're a lousy short yardage and goal line team because they always take him out, take Barry Sanders out, then they never have anyone that is a real good short yardage runner. I think everyone looks for this, and they say, oh boy, when Barry Sanders goes out, this is a heck of a deal for us. They only needed inches, didn't they? It was less than a yard. It'll be all about marking.
About a half yard shy.
Watch Larry Tharp, number 71. He takes the ball right there, and he's going to mark it. You see, he pulled it up just a little.
He had a first down.
Yeah, I know. The Lions are going to go for it. I think playing at home with their record in this situation, I think this is a good call.
It's about a foot short.
And you would think that the Lions would be thinking quarterback sneak with Charlie Batch.
Well, they worked on it yesterday at practice. Sanders, however, is back in the game, and he's deep. Out to Morton. And Morton's got the first down and more inside the Minnesota 30, knocked out of bounds by Griffith. That's a gutsy call.
That's the thing. They put Barry Sanders in there, making him think run. And he's just going to come back quickly. 1, 2, 3, throw the ball out there to Johnny Morton. Jimmy Hitchcock is up there. He misses the tackle. So now that makes even a bigger play out of it.
Morton had the first down before Hitchcock missed, but he got added more.
Well, Johnny Morton wasn't thinking first down. Johnny Morton was thinking touchdown.
Inside the Minnesota 30. That's to Sanders. Where now? Not negative. About 4.
Look at this here, Pat, and the number of players that it took to tackle Barry Sanders. I mean, none, 1, 3, 7, and a +5, 1. I mean, it's 4 tacklers 7 times, and that's the amazing thing about Barry Sanders. You're never going to get him with 1 or 2. There's always going to be 4 or 5 guys that eventually get him down.
Second down. Barry gets the carry. This time behind the line by Ed McDaniel.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do. You have to get the penetration. And McDaniel did on that play. You're going to see he's going to be right here, and when the ball starts this way, you got to get the penetration. So if they give you a hole, you want to run through it. You see McDaniel right there, he just runs right through that hole. And that's what a linebacker, he'll start to flow, and then if he sees a hole, he just runs right through it. That's one of the ways. 1, you want to build a wall to the outside, and 2, you want inside penetration.
Clock running, 6:20 left to play in the first half. Batch to throw it. I'm not sure if it was caught or not. It must have been by Johnny Morton.
I'll tell you, Charlie Batch drilled that ball. That's the thing that Bobby Ross likes about him, is the ball doesn't stay in the air long. Like Johnny Morton, it's against the zone here. He's running a corner, and Batch threw that ball in there before that safety could get over there. That is a heck of a throw. It's a nice catch by Johnny Morton, too. J-Mo.
Just had a little room for that ball to get in there.
And you have to have a strong arm to get that ball in there with a little room.
2 tight ends set up for the Lions as Batch is changing the play. Moves Morton out wider to the left. Moore is wide right. Batch pulls it down, tries to duck under the on-rushing Vikings, but doesn't get much.
Well, Corey Fuller was out there on defense against Herman Moore. Charlie Batch was trying to throw it to Herman Moore, and they have good coverage out there. Here's Herman Moore, and here's Corey Fuller here, and you're going to see this is what he's looking right, and right now you see Fuller gets a little jump on that thing, and that's what Charlie Batch was looking at, and he saw Fuller get that jump, and you know, I better not throw that in there.
Second and goal from the 11. Sanders is the deep back, the only back. Batch to Moore. At the 1. Lost the ball, but he was down.
They're saying it's a Detroit first down, and Herman Moore caught that one. Only the second pass Herman Moore has caught today.
At the 1.
Here's Herman Moore. He's going to come up and run a slant in here. The closer you get to the goal line, the more traffic you're going to have. I don't know about that one. That looked like that ball. I know there wasn't a whistle because the whistle had blown after the ball was out. And again, it was the knee down. I think the Lions got a break on that one.
They call a timeout, so they'll have 2 left. They've trailed Minnesota 7-3.
Play was over. He was trying to score a touchdown. He didn't get in. He was a little frustrated.
Batch. Touchdown, Morton.
Charlie Batch made some big plays on that drive, including a block.
Here it is.
Johnny Morton right there. He makes a little move, then he gets to the outside. Charlie Batch throws a perfect pass to him. What you do is you get that defender, Jimmy Hitchcock, you get him inside, and then you hold him with those moves, and then you just throw it right over his shoulder.
13 plays, 76 yards, 7.5 minutes. The Lions kept it to score that touchdown. Batch to Morton. Hanson's extra point's good, and the Lions recapture the lead by the score of 10-7 with 4:15 left before the half. Charlie Batch to Johnny Morton.
Charlie Batch was watching Johnny Morton all the way. And old Johnny Morton gave an old Silverdome leap, huh?
Green Bay jump or whatever they call it.
That was a Lambeau leap.
Lambeau
here,
leap,
it has to be the
Silverdome surprise. Hanson's kick. David Palmer at the 5, 6 maybe. Out of the pack he goes. Hanson, he's got, what a heck of a play by the kicker.
Or what a heck of a poor move by the return man. Anytime that happens, I'll guarantee you David Palmer is going to take a ribbon for that one.
I would imagine.
Great tackle of Jason Hanson. In the kicker's handbook, what you do is you take your black shoe and you put that in the middle of the guy's body. You put your white shoe on his outside and put your head down.
And your eyes get wide, and you hope the guy runs into you. Smith. Inside the Detroit 35, about the 33, stopped by Carrier, finally.
One of the things that Robert Smith was talking about, he said, they always talk about my speed, and he said, that's not my major asset. He said, as a running back, my major asset is my vision. And you can see that right there. You know that, like he says, a lot of people can run fast. I mean, being able to run fast doesn't make a running back. Having good vision makes a running back.
Cunningham. Incomplete. Intended for Jake Reed.
We had said earlier that, a big part of this Minnesota Viking offensive game plan was going to go to Jake Reed, but in this first half, it could even be bigger than that. And you could imagine. And again, it was that they thought that Detroit was going to concentrate on Chris Carter and then Randy Moss, and then they would concentrate on stopping Robert Smith and not pay as much attention to Jake Reed. And if you don't pay attention to Jake Reed, he'll kill you.
Here's Cunningham back to throw, and Chase gets it to Randy Moss. Moss out of bounds near a first down.
He had Randy Moss out there the whole time. Randy Moss ran about 3 different patterns on that play, and he was open 3 different times. He was open right off the bat. He was open at the middle of the play, and then, of course, he was open at the end of the play because he caught the pass. Just watch him. He's right up here. And just watch his pass pattern as he runs there. You can see he's open right now.
Yeah.
Then he goes there. Now he's open again. And now he's open for the 3rd time right there when he gets the ball.
Leroy Horde is the deep back for Minnesota. And Leroy Horde gets the carry, and he stopped for a moment at and behind the line of scrimmage. He might have lost a yard.
Dan Owens and Luther Ellis really plugged up that middle. I mean, that's their job, and that's where you have to get started right here. Is if you're going to do anything, you have to plug the middle. You can't give them anything right there. You see how they stand up there, guys? In fact, it was Luther Ellis that made that play. He took David Dixon, who weighs like 350 pounds, and Luther Ellis just stood him up and put him in the backfield, and Leroy Horde ran right into him.
2 tight ends set up. They need 10 for a first. Cunningham back to throw. Detroit blitz. Now they stop everything. A flag on the play.
That's a 2-minute warning.
That is the 2-minute warning.
Would the clock operator please reset the game clock to 2 minutes?
No flag. Just the 2-minute warning. 10-7 Detroit.
Smith said one of the things that he's learned is injury management. When he gets close to the sidelines, just run out of bounds.
What a tight end this guy was, Charlie Sanders.
We played against him many times, and I remember Charlie Sanders was really one of the first real good tight end. Tight end in professional football was kind of a lost art. Mike Ditka was the first one in the Hall of Fame. John Mackey, of course, was one of the great ones. But in the 60s and 70s, there weren't a lot of great tight ends in football.
There are about 40 of the Lions alumni here today. Clock is running. The play clock ran out.
And that's what the noise does here. You know,
Play a game. Offense, 5-yard penalty, remains third down.
This is one of the toughest places in the NFL to play.
Coming up on the Visa halftime report, JB, Terry, Howie, and Chris will have scores and highlights from around the league. And our Fox Sports ticker will have up to the second stats. That's all coming up on the Visa halftime report. They'll all be there, all four. A lot of highlights in studio and out.
This is a situation here that the Vikings like to get the ball to David Palmer.
3rd and 17. Palmer's in the backfield. Cunningham to Palmer. Gets away from one, gets away from two, gets closer. Not enough for a first, but enough to get them well within that field goal range, and they have a marvelous kicker in Gary Anderson. Hasn't missed all year.
And you would think that that's one thing that Detroit has to do is on that third down situation, although they played that one well because the Vikings didn't get a first down, but on that third down situation is tighten up their coverage a little on David Palmer because he's the guy they're trying to get the ball to.
This guy not only makes everyone, that one from 35, but he makes them right down the middle.
Close to automatic, isn't he?
He really is. Next week, it's a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader. First two NFC Central rivals clash as these Vikings battle the Buccaneers, then two legends battle. As Steve Young leads the 49ers against Brett Favre and the Packers in a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. John and I'll be there. Coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Fox. Check your local listing.
You know, it's interesting, Pat. We remember we did the first game that these two teams played in Minnesota, and the score at halftime was tied there. It was 6-6 at halftime, and then Minnesota came out and kind of exploded on them in the second half. That's also when Detroit had their turnovers, but this is a different Detroit team. I mean, the Detroit Lions are a lot better team than they were 5 weeks ago.
Well, that was Charlie Batch's first game at quarterback.
Yeah, and you know, and Charlie Batch on that last drive, I mean, he did everything. I mean, he threw that one in there to Johnny Morton on the sideline and was like shot out of a cannon. He blocked once for Barry Sanders. Then he throws one to Herman Moore to get down the goal line, and then he throws one to Johnny Morton in the end zone. That was a heck of a drive.
Berger to kick it off. And he drives it almost out of the end zone.
Yeah, in fact, let's look at him here. This was the fourth down one. Everyone thought they were going to run, and that's confidence in your quarterback. There was one to Herman Moore. You can see his arm was down before the whistle blew, and then this was a touchdown pass to Johnny Morton.
Bobby Ross says of Charlie Batch, I love Charlie Batch. He's got the demeanor you want in the quarterback. He's got the leadership, the pizzazz, the look in the eye. He's got everything. There's Barry Sanders. He's got something himself.
I think Barry Sanders is a guy that has everything. I think he went in the store and took all the good stuff off the shelf. Here's a spike chart right here. You see, he only has one play that he lost yardage on, and here he has a big one here. It really helped him under control pretty well.
That's to Morton. And that'll get the Lions a first down. They have 2 timeouts left. And they'll take one. Charlie Batch's mother, Lynn Settles, who who he gives all the credit in the world.
Yeah, he said that she was not only my mother, she was my father, she was my best friend. She was everything to me, and anything that I ever have done or ever will do, I owe to her.
Look at the fans. The hand fans with Charlie Batch's picture on.
Yeah, he's become a popular guy. I mean, here's a guy that, a month ago, he was the third quarterback taken in the draft, Eastern Michigan, had that sickness, spent 6 years in college, and there wasn't a lot known about Charlie Batch. And now they got pictures of him on a fan. I mean, that's making the big time, but he's earned it. I mean, this is a guy that has come in and taken over this team.
And they're tied with the Vikings at 10, heading into the end of the first half. Batch back to throw. Gets it to Sanders, and Sanders looking to get out of bounds and does, and stops the clock. About a half yard shy of the first down, it appears. But he stopped the clock, and they don't have to use their last timeout.
Yeah, and the thing that they have to be thinking about now is they have to get another completion or two to get into field goal range. That's the first thing. I don't think you throw those long Hail Marys, those type of thing here. I think here you're thinking get about 20 yards and get in field goal position.
40 seconds left in the first half. Score tied at 10.
If you get the ball inside the 40 with Jason Hansen, that's not a bad deal.
No, it's not. Batch throws outside to Morton. Catch is made in Minnesota territory at about their 45.
Surprised that Corey Fuller was playing so loose out there and really look at the cushion that Fuller gives Johnny Morton out here. I mean, he is lined about 10 yards off him, and then he keeps dropping, and he gives that cushion all the way.
That play used 4 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They didn't need one big completion. They can get a couple of completions, one more completion, and they'll be in Jason Hansen's field goal range.
3 wide receivers set up. Batch drops again. Morton, the intended receiver, and he's smacked by Orlando Thomas.
Johnny Morton's already caught 6 passes. He's caught a touchdown, 72 yards. I think Minnesota has realized that the go-to guy today in this first half is Johnny Morton, and I think they're giving him a little more coverage than they did earlier in the game. And now, eventually, they're going to get back to Herman Moore, you would think.
They're 2 around Morton. Moore goes to the right this time. Morton and Kroll in the slot left. Second down. Here's Batch back to throw it to Sanders. And Barry Sanders has got some room. Down to the 35-yard line. And now I think you could say they're in Jason Hansen range. Forget the halftime report. J.B. Terry, Howie, and Chris, scores and highlights. Fox Sports Ticker up to the second stats. All coming up on the Visa halftime report.
Look at this thing that Jason Hansen does, this whole stance thing. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I don't know, what you guys go through before you kick the ball, but he has a ritual that is really different from a lot of them.
I had nothing like that.
Well, watch what he does. He gets back here, and now he kind of puts his back. Watch this. See that look there? I don't know what that one there is with the hands up like that. What do you guys call that?
I wish I could tell you.
It has to be some kind of, pre-kick ritual motion.
Here's Batch to throw it. Morton incomplete. There's a flag on the play back at the 30-yard line. Not down where Morton was, but back closer to the line of scrimmage.
And you'd wonder, when he's going to start looking over at that other side to Herman Moore, because I think they've established that Johnny Morton's a go-to guy. This is going to knock Detroit out of field goal range.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Pass interference, number 82, offense, 10-yard penalty, repeat, first down.
Roll. 16 seconds left. Detroit out of timeouts. Minnesota has 2 left.
Crowell is a rookie that they like as their third wide receiver. You know, he's the Randy Moss of the Detroit Lions, and he's a guy who plays. He's their slot guy, big wide receiver.
First down. They need to get something out of bounds. Batch gets away, gets the ball in the middle to Herman Moore. They don't have any timeouts left, and the clock is running down to 5 seconds now. They got to hurry if they're going to get a field goal. And Batch hustles up. And I think they got it stopped. Minnesota says no, they're heading for the locker room.
Second remaining.
1 second. 1 second.
Remember the last game against the Green Bay Packers? They thought that they got a bad deal on the clock. They got a good deal on this clock.
Yep.
Watch the clock. Here's the clock right here. 2, 1. Yep. They had it in.
And Hansen comes on at a reasonable distance. He made a tackle already, you know.
Yeah, well, he got he knows which foot's his right and his left. Now watch this. He gets this. Now watch this stance here. Now the hands will go up. There, right there. And come down.
And the field goal is going to be good. He can do whatever he wants to do. As he puts the Lions ahead 13-10 at the half.
That's right. If it works to put your team ahead, he can do whatever he wants to because everyone loves you. What a half for Charlie Batch, huh?
What a half for
his idol, Randall Cunningham.
Detroit, as they head for the locker room to regroup.
You know, the big thing is the rushing yardage here. That the Vikings had 90, the passing yardage 128. You know, 10 first downs, 11 first down. For the Detroit Lions over there, and it's really been pretty even. I mean, here's the big thing that everyone was trying to eliminate is that turnovers on both sides, and there was only 1 turnover.
Injured. Mays was the injured Viking on the kickoff coverage. Detroit 13, Minnesota 10. As he gets off in reasonably good spirits. You okay?
You know, one of the things that Terry Bradshaw was saying at halftime is so true that, and I've always said the same thing, that the best friend of a quarterback is a good running game, and then you add the other thing is a good solid defense. Then the quarterback, it's not all on his shoulders, and both these quarterbacks have that in this game.
Terry said young quarterback, that's a good friend of any quarterback, no matter what age.
Yeah, because it's a good friend of Randall Cunningham. You know, and both of these guys have had that, to know that all they have to do is take care of the ball. They don't have to force anything. All they have to do is play solid football. Now, here's the thing: to play solid football, you better get John Randall blocked. He's really something, isn't he? I mean, he can get off a single team block. He can split a double team block. And the thing, I mean, this guy has a motor. You know, a lot of big defensive linemen don't have very good motors in today's football. John Randall has a great motor.
And he hasn't missed a game, as you pointed out earlier, in 9 years. That's amazing. Here's Batch to throw it. He'll take the sack rather than throw it into double coverage on both sides.
I tell you, they kept him right on the line of scrimmage on that play, though. Watch Tony Semple and Larry Tharp. I mean, it takes a double team to do this. But here's John Randall here, and they're going to boom him here, then they're going to boom him here, then they're going to get back here, and then they're going to give him another headbutt. And the thing you have to do, you put 2 guys on him, straighten them up, get them up like that, and then you see Tony Semple give him that headbutt. That's just for good measure. That's the way offensive linemen say hello to defensive linemen. How you doing?
Very good second half beginning for Detroit as Batch retreats again. Now he's looking for a place to run, and he's taken down at about the 10-yard line, but there's a flag on the play. Colonnay is the man who brought him down.
There may be a reason that he brought him down.
Maybe. Could have jumped offside. The second half beginning by the Lions looked a little shaky.
Offside, number 92, defense. was in the neutral zone at the snap. 5-yard penalty, remains third down.
Dwayne Clemens.
And you can't see that he's going to be right there. You see Dwayne Clemens just jumps. And you know, it's interesting that the Detroit Lions, because they're playing at home, are going to use hard counts today and have with Charlie Batch. The Vikings, because they're on the road, are not using hard counts today.
Third and 11. Sanders. Can he change directions or what?
And know where that first down marker is, too. I mean, he's the guy that I think the last thing, if you were trying to tackle Barry Sanders, the last thing you'd want to watch is his feet. Because his feet just keep going all the time. I mean, they keep going, and they never go in a predictable way. And what you see him here is in a two-point stance. One thing with Charlie Batch, and we talked to Barry Sanders about it yesterday, Charlie Batch is throwing him the ball more. But watch those feet. I mean, what do you watch when you're trying to tackle Barry Sanders? You know, it used to be that old thing, watch his belt buckle.
Yeah.
I don't know that would, I mean, try and watch his belt buckle and see if you can do anything about this if you're sitting at home.
Watch his eyes. You can't do that.
Ooh.
Long time the Lions took, and the flag comes dropping down. And
Delay game.
Slow delay.
Offense. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
But I think that Charlie Batch learned that, you know, the best friend of a quarterback is a good running back, and not only to hand him the ball, but to be an outlet. And more and more, as Charlie Batch is playing more and more, Barry Sanders is becoming a bigger part of the passing game.
He's always been a good receiver, but he never got involved as much.
Well, you know, it takes a lot out of you running pass patterns and stuff, and I think they've always wanted all Barry Sanders' energy just to rush the football.
He's deep. Bardell in front of him. And they give to Sanders, and he's going to be taken down at the line of scrimmage. That's Jerry Ball.
You know, Jerry Ball, for a big guy, I mean, he's one of those guys that weighs about 340 pounds, 350 pounds, but he has quickness. And you watch him here. I mean, he is going to come around right here and make a play on Barry Sanders before he gets started. But watch the quickness. I mean, he just splits a double team, and then as he comes off that split of the double team, he comes right down, flattens out to Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
Second and 18, two tight ends set up for Detroit. Batch to throw it. Herman Moore is the intended receiver. There were two defenders right there with him. Griffith, Fuller.
That's the thing. Here's Herman Moore here, and I think he caught two passes in the first half, and you figure that the coverage is going to Johnny Morton, but this is just a zone because it's long yardage.
Yep.
That's a zone coverage, and they were going to get that anyway. Robert Griffith, who's a strong safety, makes a heck of a play. He's the deep safety who has to get over to the sideline on his half of the field.
Three wide receivers this time. Minnesota shows blitz, but they don't bring it. But Batch gets away from one tackler, and now he's going to have to run and slide.
Oh, and he slid to it, and not supposed to hit him.
They're not supposed to hit him, but they did.
That's what they're arguing here. You're supposed to, if you go head first, they can hit you. And the rule is supposed to be if you slide, you give up and they don't hit you. They've been teaching Charlie Batch how to slide. He never played baseball. They brought in Frank Tanana. Remember the old pitcher?
Sure.
And they gave him some sliding drills. He taught him well in a week. He goes and he gets the slide and he still gets hit.
And he gets no flag. John Jett.
Well, the fans are looking at that one now on the big screen.
Yeah.
So that got with big screen, you can get 2, 3, 4, 5 boos on a play.
A double dose of boos. Jett gets it out of there. The low snap. Palmer fields it at the 35. Palmer's taken down at about the 42, where the Vikings will get their first second half shot at it. Detroit leading 13-10. 10:30 left in the third. Barn outside the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. First and 10, and Cunningham looks at a blitz, gets rid of it. How he got so much on the ball, I'll never know. He threw that ball 60 yards in the air with people draped on him.
And because he's a great athlete and he has a strong arm. Those are two things. The great athlete part, I think, got away from the rush, and the strong arm threw it 60 yards. But you see, that's a heck of an athletic move right there, being able to get away from it.
And throw it that far.
And then the arm, took care of the other part. I mean, not only does he throw that ball 60 yards, but he throws it 60 yards off his back foot, going backwards with a blue jersey draped over him.
Cunningham gets it to Glover, the tight end, who gets a Minnesota first down, I believe. Yes, they'll move the stick.
And he had to get rid of that one quickly because Robert Porcher, the left defensive end, took an inside move on Corey Springer. And if Randall Cunningham, watch Porcher here, he's going to come inside here, and if Cunningham doesn't get rid of the ball as quickly as he does, Porcher's going to get a sack. You see Porcher right there? That was a good move. I mean, that's where he thinks that his quickness can get to Corey Springer in the second half.
First and 10, Minnesota, 3 wideouts. Carter doing the moving, Chris Carter. Cunningham fires, pass incomplete.
This is the thing that the Minnesota Vikings want to do. This is their 3 wide receiver set. Randy Moss plays the outside on the strong side with Chris Carter being the slot guy. Then away from that is Jake Reed. So you can see what they're trying to do is get the coverage to come over to this side. Then in the first half, they were throwing to Jake Reed. Now, as Denny Green says, we can use this if we can run from it. They only ran 7 times for 22 yards in the first half from that formation.
2 tight ends. This is Robert Smith. Smith picks up about 8. Crosses the Detroit 40. Martin Carrier had to make the stop.
What Denny Green is talking about is they don't want to get in a situation where every time they have a fullback in there or 2 backs in there, then they run the ball, and every time they have 3 wide receivers in there, they pass it. He thinks if they can ever get balanced where they can really run well from 3 wide receivers, and Randy Moss can get in the game more, and that can be their base offense.
3 wide receivers, Palmer and Horde behind Cunningham. 3rd and about 2. Outside to Horde, and Horde will get the first down.
Yeah, I think this is what, Randall Cunningham was talking about how, when he came back, this time he's so much more patient. And I think that this shows that patience, where he just takes the ball and he only needs a couple yards, just come back quickly, get the ball out here to Horde and let him pick up the first down.
And that's a very difficult pass to throw.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it,
that's
but it
the
is.
toughest pass to throw. Those passes, those deep ones are really the easiest pass. Those loop passes are the toughest.
The handoff is to Smith. He gets around the corner with that long stride and picks up about 9. Ron Rice knocked him out of.
You see David Dixon, the right guard, when he pulls, he just blocks out his side. I mean, he weighs 350 pounds. Now watch him, he's right here, and he's going to pull to the right and lead this play. And you see when he pulls, now watch when he goes, he just blocks 2 or 3 guys at one time, and guys just go backwards.
The amazing thing is that he can pull.
That's picking up that 350 and getting it going right and left.
2nd and 1.
You look like Larry Allen on that play.
Cunningham fakes, he's chased. Fires into the end zone, incomplete and no flag.
Did you see the move that Randall Cunningham put on Rob Fredrickson?
I sure did.
Fredrickson had him. He had him dead to rights, and that's where, the combination again of the great athlete and the strong arm. Watch Rob Fredrickson. He's going to come here, and he's going to be free. And right now, he's going to zero in right there. You see him? And Randall Cunningham sees him in that spin thing and just gets outside. That's
Just
Rob
did move
Fredrickson
while he was in
right
the spin, yeah. 3rd and short. 2 tight ends and Leroy Horde deep. Horde. He didn't get it. He didn't get the first down. Luther Ellis hit him first.
Luther Ellis got the penetration. You're right. That's the thing. Short yardage and goal line, and they only needed inches here. Look at Luther Ellis. He knows he made that play.
Yeah.
That there's a heck of a play. Watch the penetration right here. See, he plays on this side, and that's great second effort. I mean, he got the penetration, he went down, he got up and made the play. Watch him just take off. I'll tell you, that's when you find out a lot about defensive linemen. It's not all about pass rush. It's about playing short yardage and goal line and making 7-point opportunities, 3-point opportunities.
Gary Anderson from 44 yards out. And again, just a little bit off center. But good, 13-13. 400 career field goals for Gary Anderson. The Vikings set to kick it off. 13-13 tie. Deep dip kick by Berger, 5 yards to Terry Fair, 6 yards deep in the end zone. So they'll start from the 20. Charlie Batts, the quarterback. Barry Sanders behind him. Both these teams have a lot of offensive weapons. 3 good receivers on both sides of the ball. 2 good running backs on both sides of the ball. Randall, he enjoys the game.
Well, and you see lined up 14 times today at right end, 13 at right tackle, and 15 at left tackle. You see him switching from right to left. He's the under tackle. Jerry Ball lines up in the center, and he lines up on the guard.
Barry Sanders cuts it back. And Sanders outside the 30 of first down.
One of the things that the Lions always talk about, and Bobby Ross is always saying, that no matter what happens in the game, whether it's the first, second, third, or fourth quarter, we can't get away from Barry Sanders.
You got to be patient and keep giving him the ball.
He says he keeps track of it down there. Someone else on the sideline keeps track of it, and they keep track of it upstairs.
1st and 10. Vikings show blitz. Flag on the play. Batch gets rid of it for Morton. Incomplete. But I think the Vikings might have been early with their blitz. Now it's holding.
Yeah, that's going to be holding. That's in the area. The referee stands on the right side of the quarterback, and he's watching that right side.
Holding. Offense, number 61. 10-yard penalty remains. Second down.
Jim Pine, the center. I didn't do that.
Centers never do it. Centers are always the best talkers in the offensive line. Here's the center, Jim Pine. And you see, he sees that blitz coming. He's blocking away from it. I don't see any holding there yet.
I thought I might have seen an offside by Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't think Jim Pine did anything. I think he was on the ground, and
yeah, I think so.
He didn't even have anyone to block.
1st and 20. Sanders by himself behind Batch, takes the handoff, and the Vikings in good pursuit, led by Dwayne Rudd. Right now, for an NFL update, let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles.
Pat and John, Vinny Testaverde enjoying life after 30 here, hooking up on a corner route with Keyshawn Johnson. Vinny 13 of 24, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns now. He's got 5 this week, including 3 Monday night. 28-3 Jets over the Falcons. Back to Pat and John.
Back at the Silver Dome. 2nd and 21.
You know, it's amazing what these older quarterbacks are doing in this league.
Yeah. Batch throws it outside, intended for Barry Sanders, incomplete.
You know, we talk about Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah.
Look at the top quarterbacks in the league. Randall Cunningham is number 1, Steve Young 2, Neil O'Donnell, John Elway, Vinny Testaverde, and the average age of the highest-rated quarterbacks in the league is 35 years old. And that's at 121. I mean, that's that quarterback rating thing that they have in the NFL.
Yeah. Which is very complicated.
Unless you understand. If you understand it, it's not. No, I do. But I don't know that everyone else does.
Probably not. 13-13. Batch retreats again. Batted down.
Here's here's how they determine that quarterback rating that we were talking about. Pass completion divided by pass attempts, subtract 0.3, then divide by 0.2. Pass yards divided by pass attempts, subtract 3, then divided by 4. TD passes divided by pass attempts, then divide by 0.5. Start with 0.95 and subtract interceptions divided by attempts and divide by 0.4. Add the sum of steps 1 through 4, multiply by 100, then divide by 6, and that is exactly how you come up with those numbers.
And you're telling me you understand that?
Yeah. You understand it like a book.
Down goes David Palmer. The punt took a Lion bounce. Ryan Stewart made the hit that knocked him down. It's 13-13.
I can get a running film.
Now that looks like fun. How about this, Pat? Watch Ryan Stewart here. He's a special teams guy, backup safety. This is what they do. I mean, they just come flying in and throw their bodies at anything that's moving.
That's the way some people make the squad, the active squad. The Lions coming on the blitz, and Cunningham is down. That's Scroggins there first again. Tracy Scroggins around the corner.
And anytime that they can get Scroggins out here, you see on that weak side now what he's doing, he's going against Corey Stringer.
Just got around him.
And they just feel that in the second half that Stringer, I mean, he's one of those big guys, weighs 350 pounds, that he loses a little of his quickness. And they just want to battle him in the first half, then in the second half come and throw some speed at him. And that's what we're doing now. Here's Scroggins again.
3 wide receiver set up. Chris Carter on the move, and here comes the blitz again, and Cunningham just has to throw it on the ground. As Rob Fredrickson came free in Cunningham's face.
Rob Fredrickson has really been a threat. Here's Scroggins. He's going to come here. Fredrickson is going to come inside of him. You see, here's Fredrickson right there. Again, they wait. Corey Springer goes to the inside. The tight end blocks Scroggins, and no one is left there for Rob Fredrickson.
They're trying to set up a screen pass, but you got to slow those guys down a little bit.
Or you have to get someone on him, at least chip him. Rob Fredrickson is becoming a pass-rushing linebacker for this Detroit team.
Leroy Horde in the backfield. Cunningham asking for quiet. He's not going to get that. Scroggins. And the rush comes to Cunningham, who gets loose and fires deep. Randy Moss, the intended receiver, and there's a flag down as Westbrook was with him. But throw it up there and you might get a penalty.
I'll tell you, that's the new thing in this league, or it's been the new thing in this league for 3 or 4 years, and you wonder what Brian Westbrook, the corner, can do. I mean, he's there and he has man-to-man coverage on the whole field. And when Randall Cunningham...
Defense, number 32.
That's a 59-yard penalty.
First down.
Right, and when Randall Cunningham can scramble and give him this much time, you know, it's hard to keep your hands off him. I mean, he's looking at the ball, and you see he just had that left hand there. The right hand was okay. But, I mean, that's a long time for Bryant Westbrook to have to cover.
And you're right about that. As long as Randall Cunningham can scramble around back there, and as far as he can throw it, you're going to get a lot of those.
And you have to cover the guy all by yourself all over the field for as long as 10 seconds or whatever that took.
First and goal at about the 5. Cunningham. Reed. Incomplete. It hit the ground. Almost made a one-handed catch, but it hit the end zone. Artificial surface.
They're going to work on Westbrook again on his side, and you see Cunningham just throws that ball up to the outside. Westbrook was right there. It looked like he didn't even see it.
Yeah.
He got between the quarterback, the pass, and the receiver, and he had to throw over his head. Westbrook again right there. He grabbed the shirt. Westbrook 2 plays in a row got those hands going.
Here's Cunningham with Horde deep. Lions showing blitz. Cunningham kept the ball. Flag on the play. That was a pretty good fake by Randall Cunningham.
Prior to the snap.
Sort of nonchalant.
Number 64, offense. 5-yard penalty remains. Second down.
Randall McDaniel. False start.
You know, Randall Cunningham can do all those things. Here's Randall McDaniel. He's the left guard, and then you see that he just got started a little early. He was coming down there to block Dan Owen. Randall Cunningham, I mean, he does so much, with his eyes, his vision, his strong arm. But you combine his feet and his quickness with that, and that's a heck of a tough package to defend.
That was going to be a pass play.
That was play pass, yeah.
Here he drops to throw it and throws it incomplete out of the end zone. Went flying through the hands of the intended receiver, Chris Carter. Big Reed was in the area as well.
Yeah, and he had good pass protection on that one because he was able to look at 2 or 3 receivers. And I think this is the thing that he was talking about with this offense and these guys, the patience he has. I think you're going to see Stephen Boyd. See that hand right there?
Yep.
That was Stephen Boyd who came in and deflected that. Stephen Boyd's been all over this field, even downfield as a pass defender.
So it's 3rd and goal. Back at the 10. Nobody in the backfield for Cunningham, who sets to throw again. And a touchdown to Chris Carter. He can do amazing things, and he has been doing it for years and years.
And Randall Cunningham could do amazing things to throwing that ball in there because that's the thing you always say, don't force it, don't throw it into double coverage. Randall Cunningham threw that ball to Chris Carter into double coverage.
His 76th touchdown as a Viking, Chris Carter. Ties Bill Brown. Remember him? Extra point good. Watch Chris Carter's feet.
And watch the coverage on him. I mean, there are 2 lions, one on either side of him. Not only catches that ball, like you said, keeps his feet in, but what a throw by Randall Cunningham.
20-13, Vikings by 7. 20-13, Minnesota leads Detroit. Berger about set to kick off. Terry Fair back deep for Detroit. Detroit's first 3 draft choices of this past draft all are playing. Fair's number 1. Batch, the co-number 2, along with Kroll. Fair at the 23.
Let's watch that touchdown again. Here's Chris Carter right here. He's in the slot. And you always say, throw away from double coverage. Don't throw into double coverage. But watch the double. They got an inside out there, but it's not a good inside out. In fact, if we look closer here, look at Mark Carrier. He's not even looking at the ball. He has his back to it, and he doesn't get any reaction there at all. That was Ron Rice.
Cunningham threw it high. Carter went up and got it and kept both feet down.
And he just threw it right over Ron Rice's head, and Rice had his back to it.
Flag on the play.
Randall Cunningham is looking down at the bench and he's trying to stretch that calf.
Number 72, offense. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
Ray Roberts, number 72.
Remember last week against Washington, Randall Cunningham strained his calf. He said he thought that he was shot or something in the leg, and he said he felt something pop. He said it was his calf, and he said he was down, and Chris Carter came by and said, "Get up!" He said he just got up automatically, and he just had too tight a tape job on his ankle, and that put too much pressure on his calf.
Sanders. Barry Sanders almost broke it. Hitchcock wrapped him up.
One of the things that has really been hurting Detroit today is they haven't had the turnovers. They've played a pretty solid game on both offense and defense, but the penalties, it seems like they're always coming off a 5-yard penalty or a 10-yard penalty.
And don't forget the 59-yard penalty on the pass interference by Westbrook.
Yeah, that's a killer. I mean, I think that Randall Cunningham really caused that as much as anything because there's no one that can cover all over the field for that long.
2 tight ends set up. Sanders deep. Bats back to throw it. Intended for Tuplevich. Incomplete.
You know, the guy that used to be such a big part of this offense, and we remember watching the Lions for all these years, and obviously Barry Sanders was a guy, and then the other guy was Herman Moore. And with Scott Mitchell as a quarterback, Herman Moore was his go-to guy. Since Charlie Batch has been playing, Johnny Morton, the tight end, spreading around Barry Sanders more, not Herman Moore as much.
3rd down. Batch drops to throw it. The Herman Moore pass was deflected and incomplete. Torian Gray got a hand on it.
I think Herman Moore is one of those guys that if he doesn't get a lot of balls thrown to him, that he starts to get down a little. You know, Jerry Rice was that way. I think Chris Carter is that way a little. Herman Moore is that way. Unless you really keep them involved in the game, then they tend to get a little frustrated.
John Jett back to punt it. Good kick, turns over for Jett. And Palmer tripped up and a flag on the play. Good coverage by the Lions. Here's Bobby Ross over encouraging his team. This is going to be against Minnesota. Illegal block, I'm sure. Bobby Ross is a gentleman in every sense of the word, but a tough guy.
And he's a real competitor, and you know, and he stays and he's going to compete with
During the return of the kick, illegal block in the back, above the waist, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Yeah, I always had the rule, Pat, that if you can read a guy's name, don't block him. Right there. You can read that name, see that name. You don't block it. He did.
First down, Minnesota at their own 15. And the Lions defense is encouraged by the crowd. They need to tighten up, although they played well. Cunningham to Robert Smith. And Smith is going to be herded out of bounds. Stephen Boyd is the first one there. Right now for an NFL update, let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles.
Hey, Pat, herded to the end zone was Terrell Owens. This pass from Steve Young. San Francisco aiming for sole possession of the NFC West and 16 consecutive regular season victories over St. Louis. Well en route. Back to Pat and John.
Back at the Silverdome, Todd Stussy is the man down from Minnesota. Valuable offensive lineman. They're checking his left knee.
One of the best offensive tackles in all of football, Todd Stussy.
One of the hardest workers.
To do something about it this week, but I think it's something they ought to do something not only this week, next week, the week after that, the month after that, every week, every year for the rest of their lives.
They're asking for this week 10 minutes every day for them to speak on the evils of drugs. Cunningham on the evils of pursuit, and he is finally taken down by Porcher, who chased him a long way.
Yeah, it's funny, we talk about age and these guys, and Randall Cunningham, you know, being an older quarterback, but the way the guy moves, I mean, they have him right here. The pocket is collapsed. They have a sack, and he just pulls and kicks out of it. And then I'll tell you, you know, we talk about the time that he buys, then that adds the time that the defense has to cover.
That's what happened to Westbrook.
And there's no way that you can do that. I mean, he puts so much pressure on you with those kinds of things, he can darn near make the game impossible in some cases.
3rd and 7. He gets the pass out to Carter for a first down. David Palmer, beg your pardon, out of the backfield. And a flag on the play as Cunningham is down. It looks like it could be a late hit.
I think the Lions are getting frustrated right now with Randall Cunningham.
The quarterback, number 91, defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic.
Well, you know, they've been chasing him around all day and chasing him around all day, and he's been stepping out of their grasps and doing all this thing that they get that close and they just want to take a shot. Now you can't do that, but that's out of frustration. I mean, Robert Porcher is a good player and he's a class player, but you can't let frustration get into you where you do things like that.
Both Bobby Ross and Denny Green in their 7th year as head coaches. Denny Green, of course, all with Minnesota. Bobby Ross was with San Diego and then came here.
You know, here's the big thing with Randall Cunningham right here is that no interception. I mean, that is gigantic.
That's amazing.
All those other things we've been talking about.
That is amazing. 2 tight end setup. Smith is the deep back, and he gets the carry. You're not going to catch him if he gets loose.
Tusi was leaving the field, and he came back and congratulated him. But Robert Smith got in the open field with Mark Carrier, and he put a move on Mark Carrier that put Mark Carrier down. And Mark Carrier is a good open field tackle. That's what a free safety has to be. Watch Robert Smith. Now here he starts up the middle, then he breaks to the outside. Now here's where he used his vision to get here. Now he uses speed. See that move right there? That was the move that got him the touchdown.
Just stunned him.
And that's the move if Robert Smith ever does a commercial, Mark Carrier will be on it. But the Vikings are doing the same thing to the Detroit Lions that they did to them in Minnesota.
Yep.
You know, it was even at the first half, and they come out in the second half, made some adjustments, used their speed, tire them out. Watch this move again. He just put him right down. In fact, he made both of his knees wobble. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yesterday we asked Luther Ellis about Robert Smith.
Robert Smith, he's a slasher. He's very fast, even though it looks like he's what we call deceptive slow. Just because of the way he runs, he's so smooth. You think you have an angle on him when they run a stretch, or even when he runs up the ball up the middle, you think you have an angle on him, and all of a sudden he's 10 yards down the field further because he has such great speed.
Robert Smith has had 15 100-yard games, and 5 of them have been against Detroit.
Watch Stussy, who's headed for the locker room.
Yeah, he had injured his knee. He was on his way out. He didn't have anything to do with blocking. His backup was part of that blocking.
Lindsey.
But we talk about how running backs like offensive linemen. Offensive linemen like their running backs, too.
Just a few seconds ago, it was tied at 13. And now it's 27-13. Minnesota leads.
Well, a big part of that was Randall Cunningham, his movement.
Yep.
Then that penalty by Porcher, that gave him good field position. And then Detroit's defense has been out there a long time now, and they're starting to wear down or tire out or whatever.
This is going to be fair out of the end zone, about a yard deep. He just can't make it happen. Next week, it's a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader. First 2 NFC Central rivals clash as the Vikings battle the Buccaneers. And then 2 legends battle as Steve Young leads the 49ers against Brett Favre and the Packers in a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. Coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Fox. Check your local listings.
We just saw Steve Young throw a touchdown pass to Terrell Owens, and it looks in this league now to be a good quarterback. You either have to be old or you have to be able to move.
Helps if you have 3 tall, big, good wide receivers. That's taken down by Derek Alexander.
We talk about how Barry Sanders and the Lions want to keep him in the game. This is tough, and you can see that right here, that's a pretty good start by the Minnesota defense. Then he gets one on him. Then they come back and they do pretty well. Then in the second half, they start off well. You see the 2 losses, and then he had those 2 plays. But the thing that gets Barry Sanders out of the game is when the score gets like 27-13.
Right. That has the ball deflected.
One of the things we're talking about with Terry Bradshaw said at halftime is true that, a running back and a good defense. The other thing is being ahead. And you can see that it's a lot easier for any quarterback to play when it's 27-13 and he's the 27. And it's more difficult when he's the 13. That's what's happening to Charlie Batch right now.
You saw that second half scoring. That's devastating. 40-0. Minnesota over Detroit, 3rd and 11. The ball to Herman Moore and gets a Lion first down. Clock running with 50 seconds left in the 3rd quarter, so there's still plenty of time.
And I think that this is a thing that they have to do. I mean, they have big playmakers, and when you get in big games and you need win, you got to get the ball to your playmaker. And Herman Moore, for years, has been a playmaker for this Lion team.
There's another playmaker.
Oh, John Randall, yeah. I mean, he's something. He got that motor going all the time. We're talking about that. And he talks to these guys all the time.
Barry Sanders just tripped up by Hitchcock. Still got 7 or 8 yards. But but there was daylight in front of him if Hitchcock didn't trip him.
Well, there's defensive players will say in this league that Barry Sanders causes more groin pulls than anything.
And that's the end of the third quarter with the score of the Vikings 27, the Lions 13. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after a word from your local Fox station. Looks okay.
Yeah, he's just working on his pass protection because he knows if he has to go in there that he has to be able to pass protect.
Barry Sanders. Yards short of a first down. It'll bring up third and short.
One of the things I think that has hurt this Detroit Lions team, other than Randall Cunningham and Robert Smith and some of the things that they've been doing, is the fact that they've had so many penalties. I mean, they've had 12 penalties for 154 yards.
That includes that pass interference penalty against Westbrook that Cunningham set up with all that scrambling.
Yeah, I mean, and the 12 penalties. I mean, it just seems like every time they'd get something going, they'd have a penalty.
That's a lot of yards. Sanders has the first down. Corey Fuller finally wrapped him up, but he got close to midfield.
I mean, he's just fun to watch. I mean, anytime here, now he has the fullback in the backfield with him, so he's going to get a lead, and then he'll start to the right, then look in there for the lead, and just step that left foot in there to see if there's anything where the lead block is. There was nothing there, so then his right foot was back to the right again.
Well, one of the amazing things to me is the Lions' record since they drafted Barry Sanders is 75 and 75. A great running back.
And he's never had a whole heck of a lot of help or a great defense.
Never had a real cast with him. He throws back. Batch throws back to Sanders. And he gets to the Minnesota 42-yard line.
It was interesting that Charlie Batch was saying that his idol, his role model was Randall Cunningham. And he grew up as a quarterback. He wanted to be like Randall Cunningham. And I think maybe watching Randall Cunningham, he's picking up some of those things that, you just can't stay in the pocket.
Yeah.
You have to move in the pocket. You don't have to run with the ball all the time, but you have to move around, buy some more time, and then look again and see what you have.
And usually when you have a chance to get that second look, somebody will be open, or you'll get pass interference.
Yeah, and then you can really fling some deep ones, too.
Yeah. Here's Batch flinging a deep one. Incomplete. That's good coverage intended for Morton, but Hitchcock was right there with him.
I think Jimmy Hitchcock probably figured out that the guy that they're going to go to is Johnny Morton. Here's Hitchcock. He's running just stride for stride with Johnny Morton. Johnny Morton looks up. Now Hitchcock waits, and then he turns and looks and makes a heck of a play getting that left hand up there.
That is classic.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to run with him and not look back until he looks back. And then after he looks back, wait 2 beats, then you look back and the ball should be there.
Sanders is not going to get the first down. Now an interesting decision for Bobby Ross and the Lions. Do we punt it or do we go for the first? They had this situation earlier, a little bit deeper in Viking territory, and they went for it.
Yeah, but he had shorter yardage.
Yeah,
I think
he did.
That's the thing. He has more yardage on 4th down and short than he had on 3rd down and short. And his argument probably is what my argument used to be as a coach when the players would say they wanted to go for it. I said, if you would have gotten on 3rd down, we wouldn't be in this situation. They want the same guys to do the same thing they did on 3rd down.
Nobody ever argued with you about that.
No.
That one bounced out of the end zone. They bring it back to the 20. And now there's the chorus of boos after a 44-yard punt. The Vikings take over. 12 minutes left. Inside, the Vikings lead as Robert Smith is stopped right at the line of scrimmage. Stussy is back in. Waldrop made the tackle.
Did you see that shot of that duck? Someone once told me that the duck is a definition of being cool on the outside. As you look, you see how their bodies on top don't move. But underneath, their feet are going like heck.
That's the male duck.
Yeah,
Here comes the female right there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, on the exterior, they look very, very calm, but underneath that water, they're pedaling
makes the catch and the Viking first down.
You know, one of the things that Dennis Green was talking about last night, you know, I mean, the thing is Randall Cunningham and what's going to happen when Brad Johnson comes back. And he says that, you know, that Brad Johnson is the quarterback, but he has to be healthy and ready to play this whole offense. So that's the thing that Denny Green said. He said the first thing he wants to do is, he said he had two quarterbacks. He had Brad Johnson and Randall Cunningham. And he said then he lost Brad Johnson. He said he wants to first get back to that, get Brad Johnson back and dressed. Now I got two quarterbacks. Now I can go from there.
First down, Minnesota. Smith gets the ball. Gets a couple. Yesterday we spoke to Brad Johnson about who decides when he returns as a starter.
I'm ready to play right now. It'll be a decision where I think all of us will have to come together to a conclusion where the trainer, Fred Zamboletti, says, I'm okay. Brian Billick feels like I can make all the plays I need to, and the ultimate decision comes from Denny. And it's Denny's team, and kind of go from there. I respect him very much.
I must say he looked very good. He was working out before the game out here in sweats. He looked very good.
Yeah, and Denny said when he's back and he's healthy, he's going to start.
2nd and 8. Lions show blitz. Cunningham stands in the pocket. Fires to Carter, incomplete.
You know, it is a tough thing as a coach. You know one thing that, okay, maybe Brad Johnson will be my quarterback. I mean, he's going to be your quarterback in the long term anyway, and will be when he comes back. But the way Randall Cunningham is playing now, I don't have to hurry Brad Johnson back. And I think that's Denny Green's plan. That maybe Brad Johnson is going to be the starter, but he's not going to be the starter while Randall Cunningham is playing like he is now.
3 wide receivers. Leroy Horde in the backfield with Palmer. 3rd and 8. Here's Cunningham back to throw it. Pass is caught by Carter. Amazing.
You know, and Kevin Abrams was right there. I mean, you can't say anything about that. In fact, Carter is complaining that he was held, but that's good coverage. I mean, that's as tight as you can get. Here's Carter here. He's in the slot. Again, you put your biggest, strongest receiver in the slot. He makes a good move right here, catches that ball, and Randall Cunningham throws a perfect pass. I mean, he put that ball out there with his left hand, caught it with one hand, but then Randall Cunningham threw it where either Chris Carter was going to get it or no one was going to get it.
He gets a first down. This is Robert Smith. The foot race is a mixed mismatch with him as he's finally shoved out of bounds by Ron Rice.
Yeah, Ron Rice wasn't going to let him make a move on him then. He was going to take that angle and force him out of bounds. And Robert Smith was saying that he learned on that injury management that we were talking about earlier. You know, when he used to get hurt all the time, he said all his injuries were on the sideline. And he learns now that on the sideline, he's either going to have room to make a move or he's just going to go out of bounds like he did. But he's not going to have another injury on the sideline in this league.
1st and 10 Minnesota at the Detroit 45. 3 wide receivers set up again. Horde's a deep back. Cunningham firing deep for Randy Moss, and it's picked off at about the 3 by Mark Carrier.
And that's Randall Cunningham's first interception.
Mark Carrier came over from his safety spot to make the interception. 8:35 left.
Right here, make a rookie mistake. And on a deep pattern, when you run an up or a go, you cannot get close to the sideline. See right here, he gets too close to the sideline, so he's run out of bounds. Now, even if he would have caught that ball, it would have been illegal because you can't come from out of bounds and be the first guy to touch it.
That's the Barry Sanders who gives the Lions a little room, gets close to a first down.
Barry Sanders. He said it's his first interception in 163 passes, and he said nope. He knew that one, but again, he probably, Randall Cunningham, when he saw Randy Moss that close to the sideline, if he was going to throw it to him, he probably just should have thrown it out of bounds too. because it couldn't have been a completion anyway.
Well, they had a punt just as good as a punt. Pass is caught by Sloan, David Sloan, the tight end, up close to the 46-yard line.
This is really the first time David Sloan has been active this year, and he's in the passing thing with Bobby Ross was saying that he wanted to get him more involved in the third down and in the third down passing and loosen up that middle, that they've been going after their outside receivers. And if he could get a big tight end going down the middle, he feels a lot of defenses have been giving him that, just like the Vikings did on that play.
Sloan had operations on both knees, 33-yard pickup. He took a long time to recover. Finally he did. Backs from behind is hit. Moore makes the reception at the Minnesota 35. There's a flag on the play.
And I don't know how Charlie Batch got rid of that one. There's going to be holding, but Collinet was right there, and
holding.
Johnny
Number 71
Randall.
offense. 10-yard penalty, remains first down.
Larry Tharp is called for holding.
You're going to see right there, there's on Collinet, and John Randall is going to get there about the same time. I mean, both of those ends get there to Charlie Batch about the same time. See, right there and right there, they get him on a high-low, and there was a holding on Larry Tharp. And Collinet still got there, even with a holding.
First down and 20 now. And the clock becomes very much a factor. Detroit needs to make something happen and happen on this drive. Up the middle, incomplete, intended for Morton. John Randall, who enjoys the game and likes to talk to people and just is an interesting individual.
Let's listen to what he has to say here.
Hey, Charlie! Hey, Charlie! Hey! 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 I can't get no love! That wasn't right, Compton! You can't be hitting me like that! That's not fair!
That's John Randall.
That's Barry Sanders. Stopped by Dwayne Clements. Today's game is being produced by Bob Stenner, directed by Sandy Grossman. The associate director is Mike Roy. Broadcast associates are Fran Morrison and Charles McDonald. Technical producer is Bob Mueller. The studio is produced by Scott Ackerson, directed by Bob Levy. The associate director was Jennifer Love. The senior producer is Bill Brown. The executive producers of Fox Sports are Ed Gorin and David Hill. Third down, about 12. 13 make it. Batch had some time, tucked it away.
Barry Sanders did a good job of blocking on that one. That was a blitz. Ed McDaniel was coming inside, and they were going after Charlie Batch. In fact, they get there. But watch Barry Sanders. Of all the things he does, he also blocks on a blitz. When you get this type of thing, he has to do it. But right there, that's a pretty good block. Of course, there weren't some blocks in the middle, and that whole pocket just collapsed on Charlie Batch.
John Jett back to punt again. David Palmer deep for Minnesota. A flag on the play. Let's see.
You know, of all the good players on this Minnesota Viking team, David Palmer is one that is kind of underrated, but as a kick returner and as a third down guy, he gets his hands on the ball about 10 times a game, and he's always capable of those 10 times to make a big play.
If Hansen didn't make that tackle on a kickoff return, he would have taken a kickoff all the way back, too.
And he also came up with a couple of big third down receptions.
This is a good kick by Jett. Palmer signals fair catch at the 11. So with 5:48 left, Minnesota continues its lead, 27-13. John Madden, Minnesota leading 27-13. Looks like they'll be 7-0.
You know, and then they were undefeated in the preseason.
Yeah.
They have a new owner in Red McCombs, and he hasn't lost a game yet.
He stopped by to say hello earlier. Yeah, he is as excited about being a part of this Viking team.
Man, I think, he says the Vikings are good for him. I think he's good for the Vikings.
Yeah,
they needed some stability, and one of the first things that he did was renew Dennis Green's contract.
And then all the assistants.
And that stuff just goes right through to the players, because the players feel it, and they feel a stability that maybe hasn't been here in the past for the Minnesota Vikings.
Dennis Green lost 60 pounds, and he's almost a different individual.
Yeah, he did an interesting thing, that he broke this year up into 5 different seasons so that they don't have to look at it like one big chunk.
Robert Smith, the first season began with training camp.
Yeah, he wanted that to be one block. It would be training camp and the preseason. In other words, let's get through this first. Okay, that's one.
We'll continue that discussion. Vikings leading 27-13 with less than 4 left.
We're talking about the 5 seasons, the first one being training camp and the preseason. And then the next one, the second season, was going to be the first part of the season up to the bye week.
And they won them all.
Right? And then the third season is from the bye week to Thanksgiving. Then the fourth season would be Thanksgiving till the end of the season.
And the fifth season, of course, the playoffs. Crowd has started to leave. In fact, a lot of them are already gone. Cunningham. Pass is picked off. I think it's Westbrook who got the interception. And the Lions have a chance to make something happen.
Randall Cunningham went all those games without an interception, and now he's had 2 in a row. So you're just going to see again the receivers get pretty close. One has the corner, and he's thrown to the underneath guy when he had the corner wide open. I think that was a bad read there. He'd hit that corner on that pattern, which is the second layer of that pattern. He's hit that 3 or 4 times today, and I think it was open on that one.
Now the Lions have 2 timeouts left. They'll start from the Minnesota 30. Batch gives it to Sloan, and Sloan down to the 21. They got to hurry. It's going to be a 2-minute drill from now on.
Yeah, because they have to think in terms of 2 scores, and this is when you start going right now. They still have 2 timeouts left. That'll be enough. I mean, they have a 2-minute warning, so they're going to get 3 timeouts in there. But they need an urgency because of the 2 scores.
Pass is picked off by Hitchcock, and Hitchcock down the sideline. And they can forget about the timeouts now. There are no flags left on the play.
And they can forget about the urgency. They were working on Hitchcock over there, and that's what a rookie quarterback can't do. I mean, you can't look at the guy you're going to throw to, because these corners will wait and wait. They'll bait you into it, then they'll get a jump on you. And watch, here's Hitchcock like he's playing off, and he's just watching Charlie Batch, and he sees that ball thrown out there, and he gets a jump on it. See, he read Charlie Batch's eyes, he read his 3-step drop, and he knew what it was.
And he jumped the pattern and got the interception. 79 yards away, he scored the touchdown. Defensive coordinator Bodge Fazio, you saw a minute ago. Extra point by Anderson's good. And the Vikings increase their lead. 34-13 with 4 minutes and 8 seconds left. Again, a disappointment for Barry Sanders and for all of the Lions.
Well, I think it's not only been a disappointing game. I mean, this whole season so far has been disappointing. Watch Charlie Batch. He's going to throw it out here to the left. But see, he looks all the way. From the minute he takes the ball from center, he is looking out there. Now, Jimmy Hitchcock is off, so he can look at Charlie Batch and see the receiver. He reads 2 things. 1, his eyes, and 2, his 3-step drop, and he knows what the ball is.
And he knew he had deep help behind him as well.
Yeah, so then he knew that he could jump it because he was in there behind. But Charlie Batch, the minute that ball was snapped, or the second, he just put his head and he looked out there to the left, and that tells Jimmy Hitchcock everything that he has to know. See, now watch. You see Charlie Batch, he's watching there all the way. So that's the thing that Jimmy Hitchcock is also seeing. He just gets that jump on that and takes it in.
Hitchcock's an amazing story in that he lost part of a fingertip in one of those gloves in an earlier game and never missed a down.
Didn't even know it. And there's John Randall still talking to Charlie Batch. And anyone else that'll listen to him. There's Jim Zorn now, the quarterback coach, talking to Charlie Batch. But these are things that you learn. I mean, I don't care. There's no way that a rookie quarterback can come in this league and really understand the total game.
And there's only one way you can learn, and that's under fire, like that.
Yeah, and then there's been guys that have had success later that have started as rookies, and there's been guys that because they started as rookies they never had any success
because they lost all their confidence. You never know. It's up to the individual. Next week, coverage begins at noon Eastern Time. Vikings, Buccaneers, Giants and the Redskins, the Cardinals, Lions will be in Green Bay for the 49ers against the Packers. This is from last year's championship game. Levy's return for San Francisco, but the Packers won handily.
The Packers were just too much for the 49ers that day.
Morton, Brett Favre to Freeman.
Brett Favre has to get back to throwing like that. His last game against these Detroit Lions, he sure didn't look anything like the Brett Favre that played the 49ers last year.
We were just talking about losing confidence. Sometimes you get it back, and sometimes you don't.
When you lose a game, you always lose confidence. I don't care who you are.
When we saw the schedule on Fox, sort of circle that game on our schedule.
Oh yeah, November 1st.
Yep. That's the one we talked about. We'll be talking about it next Sunday. From Lambeau Field. No other place like that quite.
But you wonder if those teams are going to catch this Minnesota Viking team.
Yeah, the way they look.
Yeah, are the 49ers or the Packers as good as the Vikings? And this guy here, Denny Green, has done a heck of a job. I mean, we talk about, a guy that would take a chance on a Randy Moss when a lot of teams passed on him. A man that could talk Randall Cunningham, to come back and to play for the Minnesota Vikings. All these things that he did are paying off for him now.
To come back as a backup. Batch goes down under the pressure.
And he also talked his new owner, Red McCombs, into giving him a longer-term contract. He would just add 1 year, and he told Red McCombs, if I'm an asset, if this is a business, and I'm an asset, then I ought to have a contract.
He was very close at one time, to resigning.
Yeah, in the offseason.
Yeah.
In fact, he had a long talk at the Super Bowl, Chris Carter. And Denny Green took a walk, and they had a long talk, and Denny said he wasn't sure. And Chris Carter said, well, if you're not sure, I'm not going to support you.
Right.
And Denny Green says that he wanted to come back and then got a new owner and a new contract, and his assistants got a new contract. And
a flag on the play.
And they're undefeated, and this...
Prior to the snap, ball start. Number 81, offense. 5-yard penalty remains, 4th down.
In the meantime, the Lions and their fans have to regroup.
Yeah, and that guy felt so good when he got up this morning. He woke up and said, yeah. Well, I mean, he said, we're going to get, we're going to get the Vikings today. I'm going to paint blue all over myself. I'm going to paint a lion on my chest. I'm going to wear my shirt off. I'm going to do all these things, and we're going to go out and get the Vikings.
I think he made that decision last night sometime.
So everyone has their work.
That's Palmer. Ryan Stewart. NFC Central now looks like this. Minnesota 7-0. Packers are winning today as well. That'd be 5-2 for Green Bay. Tampa Bay lost. And then Detroit and Chicago. Here's Minnesota schedule for the next 5 games: Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Cincinnati, Green Bay, and Dallas. Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, I was going to say that one at Dallas is going to be Thanksgiving Day, and that'll be the end of another one of Denny Green's seasons.
Here is Leroy Horde. Jay Fielder is the quarterback. Fiedler it is, not Fielder.
No, Fiedler, yeah. Remember the Pops concert, the Fiedler that did, huh?
Arthur Fiedler.
Arthur Fiedler. He is a descendant or a relative of Arthur Fiedler. He went to Dartmouth. And
let's figure he could be a relative of Arthur Fiedler.
Yeah.
Boston Pops.
Yeah, the Boston Pops. That's what I was thinking of. And he was out of football. He was waived by the Vikings, and then when Brad Johnson was injured, they brought him back.
Coming up next, the world's finest men and women skaters meet in the hottest new major skating event of the season. Don't miss the first Union Grand Slam of skating next on Fox.
Got everything on Fox. Did you see that implosion here yesterday?
Yes.
I never even heard the word implosion. I didn't know what it was. When I saw they had a 300,000-ton implosion here in Detroit.
Well, they had one in Dallas, right?
An implosion?
Now that you brought it up, watch. This is the old Hudson.
Here's the implosion. 300,000 tons.
That's the old Hudson's department store in downtown Detroit. At one time,
look at this one coming.
In its heyday, they had 100,000 customers a day at that store.
Look at this. I mean, if you're going to have an implosion, you may as well have a good implosion. This is the best implosion I've ever seen in my life.
How many have you seen? I thought you said that was the first one.
That's the best first one.
Fox. Leroy Horde looking for some place to go, and he's not going to find it. John Randall, boy, has he got a motor that runs.
And it doesn't stop when he goes in the sideline either.
Hey, what up, big guy? We're not sharks, we're piranha.
He's a piranha.
These guys are sharks. Piranha.
Not sharks.
I'm a piranha.
You're a piranha.
Now you think he knows what a piranha is?
Yeah, he knows what a piranha is. I'll guarantee you he knows what a piranha is. You see he has his head shaved like that? You don't know where his head stops and his neck starts.
All I know is he has a very good time. That's Leroy Horde. Horde gets up close to a Minnesota first down. And I think they will move the sticks. 34-13, a minute to go.
You see, if you look at the back there, and again, you don't know where the neck, I mean, what is his head and what's his neck? Clemens has the same thing.
Yep.
You know the toughest thing they'd have to do, seriously, is wear a turtleneck and a stocking cap.
I never thought of that. I know you had to be thinking about that a long time.
No, I just looked at that. Look, you don't know. I mean, does the neck come up or does the stocking cap go down?
I think just keeping the stocking cap on would be a challenge.
The other thing I like about John Randall is he has fun too with football. It's not only it's not only business and winning, but it's still a game and it's still fun to him.
Most of the good players, most of the great players do have fun playing the game.
And and that's what Randall Cunningham says. We talked about the difference between now and Minnesota and when he was in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He says football is fun now. Football was never fun before, and now it is.
Hey, yo, I'll give you a shot, man.
So for John Madden, this is Pat Summerall saying so long from the Silverdome, where the final score is the Vikings 34, the Lions 13. Don't forget today on Fox, it's the hottest new major skating event of the season. Don't miss the first Union Grand Slam of skating. Check local listings for the start time in your area. Now we'll send you to our Fox Network Center for the post-game report.